In today's video, what kind of cardio should you be doing to preserve muscle? Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com. In today's video, we're going to discuss what type of cardio you should be doing to preserve muscle. Today's question comes from my Instagram direct message. So I put up a question the other day. I tried to respond to as many as I could in my stories, but some of them were just too good and too deep. So this is one of those questions. I'll put it on the screen here. And if you're interested in this type of information around an evidence-based approach to putting on muscle, losing body fat, having the physique of your dreams, hit subscribe. It's what I love to do here. So let's talk about cardio in all its incarnations, okay? Now there's three major types of cardio that we're gonna discuss. Low intensity steady state, moderate intensity steady state, and high intensity interval training. Now, first we have to discuss what those types of cardios are, then we can talk about the positives and negatives and how they might apply to you. First, let's start with low intensity steady state. Now this is any type of cardio that we do that is kind of rhythmic in nature, that kind of gets our heart rate probably in the 100 to 130, 150 range, depending on how adapted you are. So what are some common types of low intensity steady state cardio? Well, you guys know me, you know my favorite is walking, but you can actually make walking a little more intense. You can pick up the pace, you can pick up the incline, and you can increase the distance, okay? So that is one way that you can increase the type of calories that you're burning, is just by increasing the intensity a little bit. Other common ways to do this are a stationary bike, an elliptical. Heck, if you just like to go outside and go for a walk, that's a great way to do cardio. Hiking is a great form of low intensity steady state. So what are the benefits of low intensity steady state? Well, it's pretty easy to perform. So this is a great type of cardio for someone who, let's say, is very overweight, because it's going to be easier on the joints to recover from. You don't want to get into a type of cardio that's going to negatively impact your training. So for someone that has a lot of weight to lose, by simply starting out with a walking or some type of low intensity as a bike where it has very little impact on the joints, that can be a great way to burn calories. Now, to lose body fat, you have to create a caloric deficit. You can do this through just restricting calories. You don't have to do cardio. What cardio allows us to do is improve not only our cardiovascular condition, but also clear our minds. It's nice sometimes to take a walk and enjoy some cardio. So not only are there health benefits, there are mental benefits, okay? And this way, you can also potentially eat more calories because you're creating a deficit through the type of activity that you're doing. Now let's talk about a moderate intensity steady state cardio. That would be something that's rhythmic in nature, but a little bit faster paced. Your heart rate's probably going to be in the 130 to 170 range, somewhere in there, depending on your fitness level. This would be something like running a race. Let's say a 5K, a 10K, a marathon, something like this. Or if you're doing something like cycling. It's going to really end up making it hard to talk. You're not going to be able to hold a conversation very easily. You're going to be breathing a little bit deeper. This type of moderate intensity steady state cardio is pretty difficult to recover from. If you've ever gone for a 5 mile run, you know when you're done, you're a little bit beat up and a little bit tired. So this is where it could possibly have some negative impacts on your training performance based on how you set up your schedule. The third and final type of cardio I want to talk about is high intensity interval training. Now, 10, 11 years ago, when I first got into bodybuilding competition, it was all the rage. I did a lot of HIIT cardio. There are some fantastic benefits. The number one benefit in my mind is that in a 15 to 20 minute session, you can burn as many calories as you can burn in a 30 or an hour minute session of low intensity or moderate intensity steady state. So what is high intensity cardio? A lot of people get it wrong. You can do interval cardio where you kind of go slower and faster. That doesn't make it high intensity. If you are able to last longer than 10 to 20 seconds going all out, it's not high intensity. High intensity interval is basically cardio to failure. Imagine you're getting chased by a bear. You run flat out as fast as you can. You can run at that speed for probably 15 seconds, okay? Now, as your conditioning improves, maybe you can last a little bit longer, but then your speed's gonna taper off. If you wanna know the true definition of high intensity cardio, we can talk about that another time. But the idea is that it's an all-out sprint. Then what you do is you recover. So imagine you run a 10 or a 15 second all-out sprint or on a track, which I actually really liked doing. Well, you would then jog or walk for a minute, maybe 2 minutes, until you're fully recovered, until your breath is shortened and you can do it again. Then you repeat this. So these intervals, you might only have to do between 5, 7, maybe 10 intervals when you get into really good shape, and you're gonna be completely exhausted. So the whole session, including warm up and cool down, might only take 15, 20 minutes. You're gonna burn a ton of calories. So that is a great way to preserve muscle if your goal is to do it in the short amount of time. But let's talk about what are the disadvantages of each of these. The disadvantage of low intensity steady state cardio, the only one in my mind, is that it takes the most time. So if time is a factor, then you can, So if time is a factor and you don't have the time to do low intensity steady state cardio, you might have to include some moderate or high intensity cardio. Now in my mind, the issue with moderate intensity steady state cardio is the performance aspect. You're going to be performing and your recovery is going to be kind of compromised when our goal to keep muscle means we should really be focusing on our gym sessions. That's right. What builds muscle keeps muscle. You don't build muscle by going for a jog, okay? Now, if you haven't walked in a long time, you might actually see a little bit of hypertrophy, but over a long period of time, really want to use those lifting sessions to make sure that we're keeping muscle, especially during a fat loss phase. High intensity cardio, what I really liked about this was the intense nature of it. I'm someone who's highly competitive. I would always challenge myself, and I did it for years. And it wasn't until I stopped doing it that I realized some of the negative aspects. So for me, one of the most negative aspects was the fact that it lowered my resting heart rate. Well, why is that? Well, you become so conditioned. I basically became like an Olympic athlete. I was doing so many HIIT cardio sessions, my resting heart rate got into the 30s. Now that might not sound like a bad thing, but when your resting heart rate is that low, you often will get cold. I would often get dizzy, and I would often get hypoglycemia. Now, I don't know the direct correlations with all of those things. I just know that in 2018, when I got the most shredded I've ever been, all I did was low intensity steady state cardio, walking. That's it. That's all I did. Now, I did buy a treadmill for my house, so time wasn't an issue. I also got a home gym at my house, so time wasn't an issue. I also work right here in my house, in my office, so time wasn't an issue for me, okay? I was able to get up early before my kids, before my family, and get everything done. In the past, my schedule wasn't always as convenient. And so for you, it might not be the case. But for me, the high intensity cardio really was demanding. One time in contest prep, I also tweaked a hamstring, so I couldn't do any hamstring movements for a couple weeks. That's how you can lose muscle. Really detraining when you are low body fat can be a big problem. And so if you're safe and if you're doing it properly, high intensity cardio can be a wonderful part of your contest prep. I just found that I was able to be just as successful and feel better without using high intensity cardio. Now that's me as a physique athlete that got down to, let's say, 4% body fat, just for the fun of it. Does that mean you should not use high intensity cardio if you're just trying to lose weight? Of course not. I think it's a wonderful addition to any type of training program. The training adaptations that you get from high intensity cardio can be wonderful, especially if you're not getting to crazy low body fat levels where everything kind of is amplified. I would suggest starting with 1 session a week. Maybe starting with, maybe moving to 2 sessions a week, splitting that up by a few days to make sure you're recovered, and also scheduling your training so that, let's say you're not having a leg session the day after HIIT cardio or vice versa, so that you're not interfering with your recovery and your training and your performance, okay? So that's it. All types of cardio are great for fat loss. Why? Well, they all allow us to create a caloric deficit. However, what works best for keeping muscle is the cardio style that you can fit into your schedule and also allows to maximize your training performance and recovery in the gym, because that's where muscle is built and that's what we need to do to keep our muscle. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for me today. Please let me know if you have any questions below, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.